Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Skandaravindaki Shri Chaitanya Shri Chaitanya Caritamrta ki Jai Gaur Prema reading from devotion. This chapter is entitled Spontaneous Devotion Further Described. This development of conjugal love for Krishna is not manifest in women only. Material body has nothing to do with spiritual loving affairs. Women may develop an attitude for becoming a friend of Krishna, and similarly, a man may develop the feature of becoming a gopi in Vrindavan. How a devotee in the form of a man can desire to become a gopi is stated in the Padma Purana as follows. In days gone by, there were many sages in Dandakaranya. Dandakaranya is the name of the forest where Lord Ramachandra lived, after being banished by his father for 14 years. At that time, there were many advanced sages who were captivated by the beauty of Lord Ramachandra and who desired to become women in order to embrace the Lord. Later on, these sages appeared in the Loka Vrindavan when Krishna advented himself there, and they were born as gopis or girlfriends of Krishna. In this way, they attained the perfection of spiritual life. Very good point that I'm just making here, so that if someone is in the female body here, then they should just think on female cannibalism. That's a totally realistic position. And one should also not think, well, I'm a male, so I can't become a gopi. Or if one is a female, they can't think that I could become, a cowherd boy, because these temporary bodily designations we have are nothing to do with the spiritual identity. Who knows how many times have we been women, men, frogs, elephants, anything. Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So reading from Sri Chaitanya Caritamrta, Madhya Leela, chapter 10 to 21, entitled The Opulence and Sweetness of Lord Krishna. starting from text 40. What's that? Okay, so I want to do how many verses? Okay. Mahavishnu Padmanabha Kiru Dr. Swami Etina Stula Shukshma Sarva Antaryami. No, that's 39, so we've done that one right. Etina Sarvashvai Jagata Ishwara Ehu Sabakala Amsha Krishna Adishwara. Translation: O Mahavishnu, Padmanabh and Kshirodakashai Vishnu are all shelters and controllers of the entire universe. They are nonetheless but plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of Krishna. Therefore, he is the original Krishna of the Godhead. So can anyone tell me what is a plenary portion? Is that something you get in a restaurant? Yeah, but what is plenary portion mean? It means complete. And so yeah, and the portion of the portion is also a portion of the plenary portion. Is that the Lord expands himself unlimitedly. It's not that he runs out after a few expansions and that's it, he's exhausted. He has to go and take rest. There's this philosophy that God is dead, and it springs from that okay, maybe there was God at one time. Finally we accept there was maybe a God, but he's expanded himself and now he doesn't exist. And he's exhausted himself, just like if you get some dough and you cut it up and you roll into puris and it's all expanded and then the puris are given out and there's no dough left. So this is not supported by the Ishopanishad. Om Pranamadaha Pranamidan Pranamidat Rachate Pranashapanam Adaya Pranam Eva Vasishyate. The personality of Godhead is perfect and complete, and because he is completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfect and complete. And because he is complete whole, even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains in complete balance. So in other words, Krishna, when he expands, he doesn't diminish in any way. If it was the case, then they would say, we wouldn't call it Krishna's expansions, they'd call it divisions or subtractions. Okay, so we'll go to the next verse. Just go through the English for now. The Brahmas and other lords of the mundane worlds appear from the pores of Mahavishnu and remain alive for the duration of his one exhalation. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, of whom Mahavishnu is a portion of a primary portion. So this is from Brahma Samhita. Shaika Nishvasita Kalam Matavalamba Jivanti Loma Vilajja Jagad Andanata Vishnu Mahansa Ihayasya Kala Vishesho Govindamadi Purusham Mahamudani. So the prayers of Lord Brahma, the creator, he's describing magnitude that Krishna, in the form of Mahavishnu, he breathes out once from the pores of his skin and innumerable universes come out, not just planets but universes. And then for the duration of Lord Brahma's time, then, which is practically in our tiny concept of this life we have, we think if we last till 60, 70, 80, we're doing well. But Lord Brahma's lifetime, his one day is 1,000 Divya Yugas, which is, it's a Divya Yuga or a Maha Yuga. Sakya, Treta, Dwapar and Kali all together, so it's one Maha Yuga or one Divya Yuga. And one day of Lord Brahma's is 1,000 of those, and so is one night. And he has so many of those days in a year, and so many years of this for 100 years. So it's practically inestimable in our concept. We're like an insect trying to conceive of some human being in relation to that. But the whole lifespan of Brahma is only one exhalation of Mahavishnu. This is interesting because it fits in with the scientific theory of expanding universe. The universe has been expanding, and at a certain point it will stop expanding, and that is slowing down, and then it comes back again. It will be contracting. Next verse. This is the middle meaning. Now please hear the confidential meaning. Lord Krishna has 3 places of residence which are well known from the revealed scriptures. Purport. Krishna has 3 abodes: his internal abode, Goloka Vrindavan, his intermediate abode, the spiritual sky, and his external abode, this material world. If you look at that picture in the back corner, you'll see these 3 abodes. The original planet where Krishna is standing in the middle of that, Goloka Vrindavan, and then the spiritual sky, which is unlimitedly expanding with unlimited Vaikuntha planets, and the external abode, then the material world. The internal abode of Krishna, the internal abode is called Goloka Vrindavan. It is there that Lord Krishna's personal friends, associates, father and mother live. It is inconceivable to the theist to think that how can God have parents? That would mean that the parents must be God, because he came from the parents, and in their tiny brain they think, oh, she got you. Or they think, well, who made God? If God made everything, then who made God? It's just such a childish question. Because once again, from Brahma Samhita, we learn Sarva Karana Karanam Anadir Adir Govinda. Well, Krishna is the cause of all causes, and he has no origin. So that person who has no origin, who's the cause of all causes, that is God. It's interesting though, because although we say, well, who created God? Then we don't tend to ask the question, well, who created the Big Bang? Well, same thing, we can say the same question. So what caused the Big Bang? If there was nothing there in the beginning of creation, before creation, then what would be the reason for anything to come about? And where would an infinitely dense, infinitesimal particle come from? So they don't even answer their own question. They don't apply the same questions to themselves. But the underlying thing is to deny God. That's the underlying thing. Because then, if we deny God, then we have no accountability. We can do what we like. And we can do all sorts of asuric things. But as Prabhupada said, just because someone says God does not exist, that doesn't mean to say that God does not exist. If I've never been to India and I say to someone from India, I say that India doesn't exist, they'd just laugh at me, wouldn't they? I say, what are you talking about? I'm from India. I was born there, I lived there. No, it's just a hoax. There is no India. So Prabhupada says the Lord comes along with his associates, and he gives a clue that there is a world beyond this, and that we belong there, and we can go there too. He leaves the Shastras and the pastimes. These are like the the tourist catalogues. Well, sometimes you go to the tourist office and you'll see, if you want to go to Benidorm, or maybe I want to go to Malta, somewhere, or Hawaii. You see what's the price? No, I can't afford that. I'll go to Butlins. I'll go to Skegness or something. Or maybe we can afford to go to Tenerife if we save up. So similarly, the Shastras are there saying that, yeah, you can merge if you want to. You can become temporarily suspended in animation if you want to consider yourself a voidist, but still you exist, you won't cease to exist. Or you can go to the heavenly planets, Swargalok, and you can go to Vaikuntha, or you can go to Goloka Vrindavan. So according to different places, there's different prices there. And if you think, well, Goloka Vrindavan sounds like the best place to be, you have to think, okay, what's the price? The price is basically to give yourself to Krishna. That's what it is. Anything else, then you don't get as far as that. Interesting. Even Prabhupada's bhajans, his godbrothers used to say that his melodies are not of the material world, they're Vaikuntha melodies. Even these foodstuffs we offer to the deities, these are also foodstuffs which Krishna is offered in the spiritual world. Krishna is a person, and we offer him so many varieties of things, and we get the opportunity in this material world to practice doing that. When you go back to the spiritual world, you might not be able to cook for Krishna directly, so you may not be able to do so many things directly. So in the material world, it seems like we even have more opportunities for service. It's like, oh, I can't be bothered. I've got something else to do. I've got a few things to sort out in my mind first. Meanwhile, the life is ticking by, and is anything getting sorted out? Yep, Maya's sorting us out. So the more we absorb in Krishna consciousness, the more we become free from the illusion of identifying with this material world and this material body. And therefore it's recommended satatam kirtayanto mam. Sometimes people think, oh, chanting 16 rounds on the beads a day, that's quite a thing to ask. But that's not what Krishna is asking. He's asking always chant. And Prabhupada, he confirms this, he affirms it. He says minimum 16 on the beads and unlimited off the beads. So in order to be Krishna conscious, we always have to be putting the mind into Krishna. This is the middle meaning. Now please hear the confidential. Okay, so we did the eternal abode. The internal abode is called Goloka Vrindavan. It is there that Lord Krishna's personal friends, associate, father, mother live. Vrindavan is the storehouse of Krishna's mercy and the sweet opulence of conjugal love. That is where the spiritual energy, working as a maidservant, exhibits the rasa dance, the quintessence of all pastimes. And next one, Vrindavan Dham is very soft due to the mercy of the Supreme Lord, and it is especially opulent due to conjugal love. The transcendental glories of the son of Maharaj Nanda are exhibited here. Under the circumstances, not the least anxiety is awakened within us. So Vaikuntha itself means free from anxiety. And here it's saying that the spiritual abode of Vrindavan Dham, Goloka Vrindavan, is actually very soft. So when you're in anxiety, you don't feel soft, right? Everything feels really tight and hard. Anxiousness. But then when we feel some relief from that anxiety, then everything feels relaxed and soft. So even within the spiritual world, it's described the atmosphere of Vrindavan is unique. And that's due to the relationship that the devotees have with the Lord. Below the Vrindavan planet is the spiritual sky, which is known as Vishnu Loka. In Vishnu Loka, there are innumerable Vaikuntha planets controlled by Narayan and innumerable other expansions of Krishna. The spiritual sky, which is full in all six opulences, is the intermediate residence of Lord Krishna. It is there that an unlimited number of forms of Krishna enjoy their pastimes. Could anybody name one of the Vaikuntha planets? Could be. Planet where Lord Ram resides. And you see on the cover of the Srimad Bhagavatam first canto, different planets, different deities are presiding deities. So yeah, unlimited expansions of the Lord in the Vishnu forms are there. And some of the residents, they are so tuned to the Lord, that they even have the same form as the Lord. And how do you tell who's Krishna then? How do you tell who's Vishnu? If everybody looks like four-armed forms with Narayan. Srivatsa. Srivatsa, it's some blonde hair on Krishna's chest, which is the resting place of Shri or Lakshmi Devi. Srivatsa. Yeah. And of course, it's even though they look the same, it's just like in the West, everybody's white, and people have this kind of racial blindness. Like perhaps people from the West may think that everyone from China looks much the same, can't differentiate, or maybe people from Africa look much the same, but they also might say the white people, they all look the same, I can't tell the difference. But actually, everybody looks individually. So it's not that in the spiritual world that everybody looks like Krishna, everyone's going to be confused. That'd be a bit crazy, wouldn't it? That'd be like Krishna would have to think again, oh, what have I done here? I don't think so. Because every individual soul is an individual, eternal, unique personality. So everyone will have their own characteristics, their own nature, their own looks, but they'll also, just like all humans, generally you have 2 arms, 2 legs and a head and a torso. So that would be, it's not that everyone is a clone of each other. In fact, the spiritual world has more variety. Often people, you see the devotees chat, not so much nowadays, but it used to be the devotees, everybody was clean shaven, tilak, and everybody was wearing saffron robes. So people would jump to the conclusion, oh, you all just look the same, you're all brainwashed. And such a statement itself is quite brainwashed because they've not taken the time to even speak to anyone to see, is there any difference? Just because they look the same. So such a display of ignorance just shows how superficial someone is. But what does brainwashed mean? It could mean 2 things. Yeah, Prabhupada says yes, the brain is very dirty, we need to scrub it clean. Yes, we're washing the brain because it's full of dirt, it's full of nonsense. But another one is basically that someone has no individual expression or someone has no freedom. So people who are addicted to things, who are attached to things, which are not helping their welfare physically, mentally, spiritually, but they still keep doing these things. Is that not brainwashed? When someone's advertising something that you don't need and you go and buy it, is that not brainwashed? When someone tells you that you drink this, life will be better, and it makes it worse, and you still keep on doing it, is that not brainwashed? So our brains need washed from all this nonsense, this hype of the attraction of Maya. Maya is brainwashing the living entity into thinking that we're going to enjoy. Just an illusion. Just like sometimes you get a hypnotist, and they'll hypnotize someone on stage, and there may be hundreds of people watching, and they'll give this person an onion, and they'll say, here, have this nice, golden, delicious apple, and please enjoy it. And they'll be eating an onion, and everyone's laughing at them. And then they wake them up from the trance, and then they realize what they've been doing. They've not been eating an apple, but in their mind they think they were. And similarly, in their mind, we're thinking that we're enjoying in the material world, and that we have some connection to this material world, that our family, our place of birth, our occupation, that they are all significant and they're all real. It's a temporary reality, they do exist. Some people, another illusion, Prabhupada says that this merging into the oneness of the Lord is the last snare of Maya. because to think that we can become God by merging into God to become God, then this is also another trick of Maya. And how is that? Anybody? Anybody? Yeah. Yeah, so aiming for mukti is another selfish desire. So therefore, that verse is there. Akama sarva kamuva moksha kama udaradi tivene bhakti yogena ajita purusham param. So akama, whether one has no desire, sarva kama, whether one is all desire, moksha kama, whether one desires liberation, then we should still approach Krishna. Because even if we approach Krishna with a faulty desire, it shouldn't be a case of, well, I'll wait till I'm pure of heart and pure of motive before I approach Krishna. Because you'll never become pure. It's Krishna who will purify us. Because he's pavitram paramam bhavan. He's the supreme pure, and he's the abode of all living entities. So Krishna is saying that whatever your desire is, then just come to me anyway, and we'll sort that out on the journey. So if we're all part of this oneness and we're all part of God and we are God, then how could we become separated? How does the supreme absolute truth become overtaken by illusion? That would mean that Maya is the supreme absolute truth that has more power over God. But no, there's three energies listed as the Bahiranga Shakti, or the external material energy, the Antaranga Shakti, the internal energy, which we're talking about Krishna, his spiritual abode, and the Tatastha Shakti, the marginal potency, and that is us, Jiva. And Lord Chaitanya, who's Krishna himself, said, Jivera Swarupahoy Krishnera Nityadas Krishnera Tatastha Shakti Veda Veda Prakash. This Veda Veda, Achintya Veda Veda Tattva is our philosophy, given by Sri Krishna himself, given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and their Guru Parampara, that we're simultaneously one with God and separate, simultaneously one and different. Just like the gold ring may be one with the gold in the gold mine, but you can't say that the gold ring is the gold mine. It may represent the same quality, but not the same in quantity. So therefore we're known as infinitesimal sparks of the Supreme Absolute Truth. As such, we can take shelter in Krishna, the Antaranga Shakti or Maya, the Bahiranga Shakti, the Paraprakriti or the Aparaprakriti. The Para means the superior and Apara means inferior. So according to Manmanabhava Madbhakto, Krishna says if we engage our mind in always thinking about him, then we will go to him. But if we're always engaging our mind in material affairs, then that's the world we live in. So the choice is ours. We can engage our mind in thinking of Krishna, and we can be Krishna conscious anywhere, anytime. Or we could engage our mind in thinking of Maya, and we can be in Maya anywhere, anytime. Even at the temple, we can be in Maya. Of course, the atmosphere is conducive for Krishna consciousness, just like if you go to the holy dam of Vrindavan, then immediately you feel the atmosphere uplifts you. So in the temple is like that too, because the deities are here, the service is going on, devotees are doing their service, they're chanting, the atmosphere is purified. So the association of devotees helps to uplift us. So just as much as you can be in the material world and not of it, then you can be in the temple and not of it as well if we're not careful. So we shouldn't just think physical location of being in the temple makes us a devotee. I shave my head and I put on tilak, put on a dhoti, That's it. I'm a devotee. I put my hand in my bead bag and I go for 2 hours, and then that's it. I'm a devotee now. I can do anything I like. That's not the way it works. So devotees are always endeavouring to be Krishna conscious by engaging their mind in thinking of Krishna through reading, chanting, serving, and praying, different activities, hearing about Krishna, etc. So there's a very important verse from the Brahma Samhita coming up. This is good to know because it gives us an idea of the pecking order of the different abodes. Golokanamni nijadamni tale chatasya devi maheshya haridama teshu teshu te prabhavan chaya vihatas chayena govindamadi purusham tamam badami. Below the planet named Goloka Vrindavan are the planets known as Devidam. So Devidam is which? Who's Devi? Maya Devi. So which one? Which abode is that? Yeah. So the temple. Yeah, the material world. The material world. It's called Devidam or Durgadam, Maheshdam and Haridam. So these are opulent in different ways. They are managed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, the original Lord. Out my obeisances unto him. His quote from Brahma Samhita 543. First of all, there's Devidam. From our perspective, which is where we are known as Durgadam. So Durga, Devi, the consort of Lord Shiva. So Durga means, let's see, translation of Durga. Doesn't have. Durgadam is not, doesn't have. Much chitta, sarva durgani. Much chitta means if you become conscious of me, sarva durgani, you overcome all difficulties. So Durga means difficulty, to be put into difficulties. So this is Maya Devi or Durga. This is her service that she keeps the living entities in the material world who aren't sincerely endeavouring to get out, and if they who are not taking shelter in Krishna. But Krishna says that is 7:14. Daivihi shagunamayi mama maya duratyaya mam evam ye prapadyante mam etam tarantite. This divine energy of mine, known as Maya, Daivihi shagunamayi, is very difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. And that's because it's not simply a kind of impersonal phenomena. This material world is controlled by a personality known as Devi, Durga. And she's also a devotee of Krishna. So when the living entity is taking shelter of Krishna, then Krishna says, okay, this one's mine now. I'll take care of this one. And then therefore, when the devotee tries to surrender to Krishna, we can understand that the suffering that we do go through is Krishna purifying us. When you're suffering in the material world, you're simply getting a reaction. And then there's a whole stock of reactions. We get good, bad, whatever we're due. But when we're under Krishna's care, then he's personally purifying us and qualifying us. Prabhupada said that Krishna's ready to meet us, but we have to ready ourselves. We can't just show up at Buckingham Palace and say, okay, I want to see King Charles. Someone say, okay, what's your purpose? What qualification? Do you know how to behave in front of the king? You don't speak unless you're spoken to. These are, even for some materialistic personality, or if you want to see the Pope or some other great personality, then you would have to qualify yourself. You'd have to at least get an appointment. And to get an appointment, you might find not so easy. Not everybody just queues up, otherwise they just get nothing done. So what to speak of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? The most important person, the most powerful person. Imagine if you want to meet the President of the United States, you'd have to have some very good reason for it. And even if you did have a good reason, he might not even have the time for you. So Krishna also, it's explained in the 4th canto, that he reserves the right to not reveal himself to casual or inauthentic worshippers. So therefore these two things have to be there. Casual means tesham satatayuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam, constant devotion. This is where Krishna says, to those who are constantly devoted, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. And then inauthentic means evam parampara praptam imam rajanshrayo vidu sakalanaya mahata yoganasta parantapa. This supreme science, Shishikontaya Mahaprashashikija, was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession. So this is the authentic process for approaching God, that we have to be in parampara. And this is Krishna himself telling us this. If we want to understand the absolute truth, then tadvadi pranipatena paraprishnena sevya predikshantu te gyanam gyaninas tadvadarshana. Just try to learn the truth. So this is Krishna speaking, by approaching a spiritual master. So not that we can just sit around and waiting for him to show up. Okay, well, if Krishna wants me to come back to Godhead, then he'll send a guru. No, you have to approach a spiritual master, go and find one. Inquire from him submissively. So when we inquire, then not only is it an inquiry, but it should be a submissive inquiry. Render service unto him, and he can impart knowledge unto you, because he has seen the truth, which means he's also coming in succession. He hasn't just self-appointed himself, like nowadays so many people call themselves guru, but they haven't even read Shastra. They don't come in any succession, so immediately they're disqualified. But people who don't know, they think, oh, such and such guru, oh, he's very wise. Yeah, he's wise enough to con you. But Krishna disqualifies such people straight away. Disqualification because there's no parampara. Guru, sadhu and Shastra. Where's the reference to Shastra? Where's the reference to other sadhus? Who is the person's guru? So these are the qualifications. If we don't know these questions, then we could be fooled, because people are very good at show bottle spiritualism. It's interesting that sometime back in the 70s, there was one so-called guru who told everybody that you don't need to read books to get knowledge. It's all within you. And where did they say that? In his book. Ironic. So don't read any books except for mine. Now, of course, yes, the knowledge is there within you, just like fire is there within the wood. But you need fire to bring that fire out, don't you? So you need that association of devotees to bring out that devotion which is in us. Our dormant true nature is pure bhakti, but in order to bring that out, we have to connect with someone who is in that succession of pure bhakti, and who shows us the way. And this is very practical. It's not some kind of sentimental or emotional thing. This is actually another trap called sahaja. Sahaja means that we take things cheaply and we just imitate the symptoms of a great devotee. But imitation is only that, it's only imitation. Just like if you print your own money and you may try to pass it off in the bank, but that imitation will just be seen immediately as imitation, and then you won't get the value of it, but you'll get trouble. So similarly, if we imitate rather than become, following the footsteps, Mahajana Yena Gata Sapanta, so that the Mahajans, we should follow in the footsteps of the Mahajans or the great Acharyas, who are showing us by their example how to be a devotee in the material world, and how to live in the spiritual world while we're in the material world by being a devotee. So of course we have our attachments, and that takes time for us to finally decide to give them up. Prabhupada says you can become a pure devotee in a moment, but it may take many lifetimes, so it's a matter of deciding, really, isn't it? That's what it comes to. But also Lord Brahma, so we shouldn't lose hope thinking, oh, I haven't decided to become a pure devotee immediately. I'm a waste of space. We shouldn't think like that, because Lord Brahma also explains that pure devotional service is achieved through gradual incrementations, gradual increments. Because we've been in the material world for such a long time, we identify with it very strongly. And for us to give up that identification or misidentification, it takes some time for those attachments, those bonds of attachment to release. And because we've been cheated by Maya so long, then the living entity is very reluctant to put full trust into anyone or any process. This is good, so therefore we should understand that Krishna consciousness is not faith, it's not just a belief, but it's a spiritual science. If we take to the process of Krishna consciousness, we chant Hare Krishna every day, we follow the 4 regulative principles, which are conducive for self-realization, for God realization. And these principles are no intoxication, no meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex. Then these things which are detrimental for our spiritual welfare, they won't affect us, and we take shelter in Krishna, then very quickly we'll start to experience a different value in life. Between the spiritual and the material world is a body of water known as the river Viraj. This water is generated from the bodily perspiration of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is known as Vedanga. Thus, the river flows. That's from Padma Purana. And there's one verse here with a purport. Beyond the river Viraja is the spiritual nature, which is indestructible, eternal, inexhaustible, and unlimited. It is the supreme abode, consisting of 3/4 of the Lord's opulences. It is known as Paravyoma, the spiritual sky. Srila Prabhupada's purport. In the spiritual sky, there is neither anxiety nor fear. It is eternally existing, and it consists of 3/4 of the Lord's energy. Material world is an exhibition of only 1/4 of the Lord's energy, therefore it is called Ekpad Vibhuti. So this term Ekpad Vibhuti means 1/4, 1/4. And it's just to give you an idea, because if the spiritual sky is unlimited, how can you have 1/4 of unlimited? But it's just to give us an idea that although we think the material universe which we live in is so vast, we can understand there's only one universe out of countless universes coming from Mahavishnu. And so that would mean that even beyond what we think is vast, there's a vastness which is just so inconceivable. But beyond that, in the spiritual sky, which is even greater. And going back to the prison house analogy, which Bhaktirupa was mentioning, is that just in society, certainly at the present moment, most people are law-abiding citizens, or at least they haven't been caught yet, and therefore they don't go to jail. But some people who break certain laws, they end up in jail. And that is a fraction of society, isn't it? It's not the majority of society. Unless you live in certain countries, then a lot of people end up in jail. But most people live their normal life. And if people have been in jail for such a long time, they become conditioned to that, where they practically don't want to leave the jail. They become institutionalized. Just like sometimes students. We had a friend, she was serving Stirling University as a nurse. She was like the on-site nurse. And she said that she was there for many years, and she said that she's seen students who'd come in and do one subject, and after they finish that, they do another one, and eventually they may become a professor there, and basically they become institutionalized, where they just want to live in the comfort and the illusion of the security of living on the campus. That becomes their whole universe, just living on that campus. They don't break out of that. They never leave student life. And so this is like us in the material world. We've chosen to live in a very restricted, limited environment. We identify with it. And because we've identified with it for so long, we think that there can't be anything beyond it. It is called Nitya Bada, or eternally conditioned. And Prabhupada explains in the Chaitanya Caritamrta that Nitya Bada does not mean that the living entity is eternally, without beginning, without end, conditioned, with no hope for liberation. What it means, Prabhupada said, is that because if that was the case, then the living entity, there'd be no point in Krishna coming to the material world. There's no point of Yada Hidar Masya Glanir Bhavita Bharata, Abhitanam Dharma Shatadat Manams Jamyaham, or Panetraya Sadhanam Vinashya Chaduskutam Dharma Samstapanartaya Sambhavami Yuge Yuge. There'd be no purpose of Krishna coming to the material world to deliver people or to annihilate the miscreants. There'd be no point in Krishna saying Daivi Hishim Mugunamayi Mama Maya Duratnyaya. There'd be no point to Krishna saying, if you surrender to me, you can easily cross beyond it. So this Nitya Bada, Prabhupada said, it's simply that since time immemorial, the living entity has been in this conditioned state that they can't trace it back. But he said that once you become liberated, you'll realize that you were never conditioned. So this is the thing, that simply we're in this illusion thinking that we're conditioned. And it is a temporary condition, but when we become free from it, because the soul is described as eternal, immutable, eternally the same, cannot be burned by fire, moistened by water, withered by the wind, cut to pieces. So the eternal nature of the soul is described in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And that would mean that this soul is cannot be destroyed. It's eternally existing. So even if we've been in the material world for such a length of time that we cannot calculate, it's nothing in comparison to eternity, because eternity has no beginning, no end. And it's also described that when you finally go back to Godhead, then even though it seems like you're in the material world for a long time, it's almost like a blinking of an eye. But while we're here, then it seems like it's lasting such a long time. Just like you have experienced when you're suffering intensely, then time passes very slowly. One time I finished work on a Friday, and I had toothache came on through that day, and there was no chance of seeing a dentist until Monday morning. And it was the longest weekend ever, because it was just agony 24/7 or 48 hours of the weekend. And then it seems like it's never ending. So when we're suffering, then time passes slow, but also, so time, the perception of time is actually just according to our level of enjoyment or suffering. So if you ever look back and think of a time when you were enjoying, and that time just passed by, it's fleeting, right? Fleeting passing of time when we're enjoying. I remember as a kid enjoying something, I can't remember, various times, like you're in the fun fair, or you're having fun with your childhood friends, and you're thinking, oh, this is great, I wish this could last forever. But it won't last forever, because you're going to go onto something else. You're going to grow older, or whatever you're enjoying, the cost of your enjoyment is going to run out. If you're paying for it, then your money runs out. Or sometimes people enjoy like intoxication, but you can only enjoy to a certain point, and then that same thing becomes miserable, isn't it? So, for example, say you drink alcohol, then you take a few drinks, and you're feeling good, so you take another one because you think it'll improve your enjoyment. And you take another one, and then you start to feel sick. But by that time, you're hooked on it, and then before you know it, it's all coming back up again. Or any form of enjoyment, we take that, and the more we try to enjoy it, this is the nature of material enjoyment. The more we try to enjoy material energy, the more that pleasure diminishes. So you take a flower garland from the deities, you smell it, and there's some scent, just like today we have these garlands with hyacinths on them. And the scent is very strong. But if you smell it a few times, then you don't smell it so much any longer. It starts to diminish. But if you pass it to someone else, they'll smell it. So the material senses and sense objects, sparshana, that contact of the sense objects and the senses, it gives some immediate gratification. But if there's too much of it, then it becomes friction. The enjoyment starts to diminish, and then it may even become misery. But in the spiritual enjoyment, it's the opposite. And Krishna explains that. The enjoyment in the material world is like nectar in the beginning and like poison in the end. And spiritual enjoyment may appear like poison in the beginning, but it's like nectar in the end. And this tastes like poison in the beginning because we're in the spiritually diseased condition. We have a skin disease that we think we're this body. We talk about skin disease, we don't mean psoriasis or eczema or dermatitis. We're talking about we have a spiritual disease where we think this body, we look in the mirror and think that's me. But if we take the skin off, we peel it off, is it still me? Are we still happy to say that's me? And then you take the muscles off, and then it's just the bones. Is that us? If we find our body from previous life somewhere, say, oh, that was me. Do we still want to have something to do with that body? And in the future, we will have nothing to do with this body. In fact, we have nothing to do with this body, but we identify with it. So we can break free from this identification by identifying as a devotee. When the mind comes up with ideas to do something which are non-devotional, we can think to ourselves, nah, I don't do that, I'm a devotee now. Haridas Thakur, he gave the example, the prostitute Chintamani was sent there to entice him from his vows. And he says, certainly we'll enjoy, but just sit here just now, finish my rounds first, and then we can enjoy. So she was thinking, okay, I'll fulfill my purpose. I've been sent here by these unscrupulous persons to cause this great saint to fall down. So he said, I have a vow to chant, so many names. If you just sit here, then... So she sat there, and eventually she was hearing this chanting of Haridas Thakur, and she became purified, and she started chanting. So so the daytime came, and she left because he hadn't finished chanting. Next day came, she appeared again, and he said, oh, just sit and chant with me, surely I'll finish my vow today. Same thing happened, he chanted all night. Daytime came and she left. And then the third time, then eventually she broke down and says, actually, I've been sent here to distract you from your vows. And said, I know. But that's why I said, I stayed here to deliver you. Otherwise, I would have left immediately. So, of course, we don't want to put harm in our way, so we don't unnecessarily go into situations where we may be tempted beyond our ability. We have to recognize our ability. But when the mind comes up with things, we'll say, sure, yeah, we can enjoy, but first I just need to chant my rounds. Or I just want to hear this lecture. I just want to do some reading first. And the mind comes up with things, and then if you just really focus on Krishna consciousness, then it will subside. So this Mahesh Dam, Haridam, Devi Dam. So we're speaking about the Devi Dam there. Mahesh Dam is the dam of Lord Shiva. Haridam is the Vaikuntha. And Goloka Vrindavan is the highest dam, which is what Lord Chaitanya is giving us. Golokera, Premadan, Harinam Sankirtan. So the holy name of the Lord, taking it and giving it to others. Giving it to others is the price we pay to go to Goloka Vrindavan. So therefore it's considered that Lord Chaitanya is giving the highest to the lowest in Kali Yuga. Therefore he's known as Maha Vidanyaya Avatar. most merciful incarnation. He's freely giving love of God. All we have to do is take it. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur also, he explains in this Bhajan Jeev Jago, he says, Say Hari Nama Mantra loud to me, Maggie. You just take this Maha Mantra, that's all. All we have to do is take it and chant it. But even that's sometimes difficult for us to do, isn't it? So this Maha Mantra is recommended. We don't just chant Maha Mantra because we think, okay, I like the sound of this one, as opposed to Om Namo Shivaya or something, you know. You can chant whatever you like. This is my favourite. It's not like that. We chant it because it's recommended by the authorities. Narada Muni in the Brihad Naradiya Purana says, Harinam, Harinam, Harinam eva kevalam, kalo nascheva, nascheva gatiranyata. Kalo nascheva, which means in Kali Yuga, there's no other means more successful and direct than the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So it's authorized, it's recommended. So there's no need for us to go shopping around elsewhere. We just take that and try it, and we'll see very quickly the spiritual substance it adds to our life. So I'll just stop there if anyone's got any comments or questions. Anything? So, good question. And it's good that we're thinking how do you arise from that, because we're considering ourselves a casual worshipper. And this is self-realization means how does it apply to me, not everyone else realization. A casual worshipper, yeah, this one's a casual worshipper here, you know, and that one as well, but not me. I'm the sincere one. No, we immediately think, how does that relate to me? I'm casual. So utilization of our time to engage in Krishna consciousness, or when we hear instruction, we don't think, well, let me think on this for the next few years before I do something about it. If some authority says something, then we take it on board immediately. If not, then that's the degree of casual we are. When we hear something, we take it to heart, we act upon it and give it to others. So to be casual means casualty, that we become a casualty in the material world. We think, okay, I can take it or leave it, or I'll come back to that. So yeah, we are casual because unless we've, like Maharaj Parikshit, he was given 7 days and he just heard Bhagavatam for 7 days without deviation, so that's someone that's not casual. We might not be on that platform, but by regulation of eating, sleeping, engaging in service, reading Shastra, and then we get the pointers. Krishna has given us so many directions how we can become 100% engaged. And this means that, okay, it's not that you have to give up sleep, but it means that you're so engaged in Krishna consciousness. And when we're chanting, we're always trying to be attentive. We're not just thinking, okay, I've got 2 hours, I just need to go through this, and then I'll go on with what I want to do. You know, it takes 2 hours to chant 16 rounds. So when we're chanting the holy name, we try to be attentive. We keep on bringing the mind back. Wherever Krishna says the mind wanders, bring it back. So this constant endeavour means that we're not taking things casually. So this verse which we say almost daily, Tesham Satata Yuktanam, constant devotion, and that doesn't just mean physical work, it means whatever we're doing. If we're reading, then we're trying to really take that in, and praying that we can understand. And when we're chanting, we're trying to be attentive, and we're doing service, we're trying to do it the best we can. If some authority shows us how to do service, we don't argue with them. We accept this is Krishna, through this devotee teaching me how to do it. And if my mind can shut up, then I'll learn better. But if our mind's always arguing, mind's always trying to think of something better, just hear. It's so simple. Just hear and then act. And then Krishna will reveal more and more. The casual means that we don't, perhaps the trouble with the devotees that they don't realize how powerful Maya is. We think that we are in control of Maya, that we can take it or leave it. And this is there in the Shastra. Prabhupada explains, and he gives so many examples that are given in the Shastra, where he says that even the most stalwart devotees can fall victim to Maya. Generally that means Bhoga Aishwarya, sense enjoyment and material opulence. So, this is another good verse actually in answer to your question, Ishan, if you're there. It's probably doing some service. Bhogeshwaya prasaktanam taya parita chetasam vyava sayatma kabudir ikeha kuranda. Is that right? Or have I mixed up two verses? Bhogeshwaya prasaktanam. So, in the minds of those who are attached to material enjoyment and material opulence, the resolute determination, ikeha kurunandana, for devotional service does not take place. So naturally we have been in the material world for a long time and we still have that spirit of enjoyment. But Prabhupada also says that we want to enjoy, but we don't know how to enjoy. The living entity is Ananda Maya, pleasure seeking. But what we experience in the material world, the end result is not pleasure. So he says, but if we accept Krishna, just like we water the root of the plant to nourish the whole plant, so Krishna is the root. If we serve the root, then automatically Krishna is pleased, we become pleased as well. So we just have to keep practicing that. Practice makes perfect. And the ultimate goal is perfection, but currently the goal is progress. Sometimes we try to make perfection, that's too far away, it's too high. So let's just make progress. And by steady progress, then we can get there. So the sadhana bhakti, or regulated devotional service, is a means by which we can make steady progress. So keeping good association and being regulated in our Krishna conscious activities. If we're under the shelter of Krishna and Krishna's devotees, then there won't be much opportunity to be casual. That'll go after some time. But Krishna is very kind, he doesn't force us to do anything. But still, we should be aware that we have this human form of life and how we use it. The result will be there. Depending on how we use it, will determine the result. So anything else? Okay, let's go to the key. Shri Prabhupada ki, Kod Nitai Mai Prashashi ki, Shri Chaitanya Caritamrta ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Gaur Bhakta ki.